Welcome to Teen Talk, Growing Together, Family Edition. Parenting a teen can be incredibly
Hi,
difficult,
welcome to
but being
Teen
a teen
Talk,
who's
Growing
struggling at this
Together,
stage of
Family
life is
Edition. This is
equally
your host,
challenging. It
Pei-I.
can feel like
Well,
no
I'm
one
flying
understands what
solo
you're going
today,
through
and the
sometimes.
topic I really
This
want to share with
podcast
the
is where we
family is
talk
about
about
sibling
topics that are
conflicts,
important for
sibling
teenagers, their
relationships, and
parents, and their
as usual, the
families,
card I
with the
pulled
hope to
is
help
about
them
annoying
navigate
siblings.
this
But
journey and
siblings may
grow
not always
together.
necessarily be
I
annoying
will
either. They can
share
be
my
really
professional
helpful. They can
insights
be
and
really
my
fun to
personal
be with.
stories,
But let's
along
look
with my
at this
special
as to
guests, to
why
make this
why
podcast awesomely
siblings
good.
don't get along. What is it they fight? What is it they annoy each other? And sometimes you just watch your two children like, "Oh, what's going on here?" Well, but speaking from my personal experience, I have two siblings, my older brother and my younger sister. The age gap is about 1 year and then a year and a half with my sister. And I remember growing up, not just my teenage years, I found it really difficult to navigate the sibling relationship because I was the middle child and my brother was the oldest. And back in my era, my time in Taiwan, having a boy is like was something so important and significant. You need to celebrate it big time. So my brother got a lot of attention, growing up as the male of the family. And my father was the firstborn as well. So that carried a lot of significance and meaning for the family. It's like we have to carry the name forward. And so my brother got a lot of special treatment, shall we say. And then I came along, I'm a middle child, and then my younger sister, a year and a half, came later. And of course, being the youngest one is always the cutest one. It's like, oh, so cute. And then she also got spoiled. And I remember growing up, I always get the hand-me-down thing from my brother. No wonder I was a tomboy because I got everything from my brother. I played with my brother for a very long time. However, that doesn't take away the fact being like, having the siblings made it really challenging for me because I was thinking, why did my brother always get the attention like I didn't? Or why did my sister get that and I didn't? And it does create, and it doesn't mean like my parents didn't do it right or whatever, but it just mean how I perceived the treatment was very different, or how I experienced, how I was treated was very different from my brother and my sister. And then, of course, that just creates a lot of difficult feelings between me and my sister, me and my brother over time. I was like, sneakily elbow my sister. I will hit her under the duvet when I was a kid. I was just like out of anger because you and jealousy. I wanted the attention, and then there's also competition, like who did better, who got better grades, and who got to go shopping with mom and dad and all these things, right? So that's how I experienced the relationship. And but like I say, it doesn't mean, the parents didn't do what is right, or the parents favor somebody, in the family. But that was my experience back then. So then, you know what? Eventually, I feel I just there was this like conflict, and there's this relationship, the gap between me and my sister and me and my brother, because that different treatment from family members, and then they always got spoiled, and I didn't. I just like, So from my personal experience, that was really, really difficult to navigate. But if you think about what I just said, there's a cultural context to it as to, the birth order, and being a male, and then being the first child, and that carries a lot of meaning for the family back then. So then, of course, how we were treated was slightly different, although my parents always say they treat us the same, and parents say this a lot: I love you the same, and I treated everybody the same. However, if you really think about it, oh, my light just collapsed. However, if you really think about it and reflect on this point, do you really genuinely 100% can say that you actually treat every single child just similarly and the same and equally? I found this really quite difficult, and this is my personal opinion and my professional opinion, because when your relationship with your children, with your teenagers, whether it's the first one, second one, or third one, are different. You know, the emotional bond is different, the life circumstances where you had the baby, you know, how your life circumstance back then, it could be very different. So what I'm saying is how you bond with each child will be different, and that will dictate or influences, not dictate, influences how you interact with each child. And a very good example is the colleagues. Okay, if you're a professional, you work in a work setting, you have 10 colleagues. You're not going to treat the 10 colleagues exactly the same way as one to another, right? Because there are different levels of relationship. There's different quality of the emotional bonding and emotional dynamics between you and the 10 colleagues. And it's the same, but it's not to say you love each teenager, your children less. What I'm saying is there will be differences in terms of how you interact with each child in your family home. And this is something to think about, you know, because I see this again and again in the family dynamics. Is the, you know, the teenager may come like, you always don't always listen to me, but you listen to her, or she always gets this and he always gets that. And while this may not be true in terms of, you know, how you interact or how you give or take away the privileges of your teenagers, but it's really important to think about this is your teenager's experience, right? And that is really important to think and reflect on. Why is my teenager thinking like I treat them differently? You know, so this is something, and it's not, try not to think about this as a criticism or attack from your teenager. And I think it's good. It's an excellent strength that your teenagers are able to tell you, actually, I think that's not fair because she gets away with this and I don't. Right? Some teenagers just don't. And then, like, I didn't tell my mom. I was like, you've been unfair, you know, because she did the same thing, but she didn't get consequences. But I did the same thing, I got consequences. I didn't have the literacy and the language and the skills to be able to tell my parents about that. But some teenagers these days are intelligent and they know their rights and know how to, you know, communicate themselves. So when your teenagers saying that, it's really important to listen and to reflect. Oh, why would they say that? What's the experience of me, you know, parenting different children in the family home? So that is something to think about. So now we talk about, so I've shared my personal experience and some professional stories with you, is the siblings conflicts. And main reasons, like I say, is really just the attention, you know, they want your attention. Even they're teenagers, they still need mommy and daddy to be there, to know that I am loved, to know they're loved, to know like you care for me, to know, you know, you don't just all give all the attention to the younger children or the other siblings. That is really important. So if you give your teenage children the attention they need, actually you will see a reduction of the sibling conflicts. And what I mean is, you know what, take your teenager, I say this very often, take your teenager out on a date, make sure you have a regular time spot with your teenager that is your quality time together. And when you are with 3 children or 4 children together, the dynamics changed. So it's really important for you as a parent to give each child individual quality time. If you have 5, then you probably need to think about how you navigate that. But it's really important for you to think about, how can I spend quality time with each child so they are in the spotlight equally, so they know they are all loved, they will always get me, you know. And sometimes I know life is really busy, and you know, things get thrown at you, and you might have to attend a meeting, or you have been called into a meeting, or the meeting run along. And that is okay, because your teenager can manage that. Your teenager can manage, you know, oh, today we're not the meeting get cancelled, or my quality time with you got cancelled. But what is really important is we need to tell the teenagers, like, all right, you know what, mom and dad, or dad has a meeting tomorrow that might run over, so we might need to schedule, you know, our date. But what we will do is this instead on this date. It's a bit like you go on a date, you know, like when you're dating, is if your date cancel you want to know why, and you want to know if there's gonna be a and then the next date scheduled. It's the same thing, but we can easily forget about this thing, thinking, oh, you know what, she'll be all right, or he will be all right. You know, I'm always here anyway. Your presence, yeah, you're always there, doesn't mean you're always available. right? And that's something to think about. Emotionally, we want to be emotionally available to your teenager. So, like I say, spend time with them, taking them out, films, have ice cream. And sometimes parents thinking, "Wow, I don't have 3 hours to spend with my teenagers." But I am not asking you to spend 3 hours with a teenager. You can spend like 15 minutes a day or 15 minutes every other day. That's all it needs to allow your teenager to know, actually, oh, so good to be with mom and dad. They're still thinking about me. They have me in mind, right? So it's really, really important to think about this. So they want your attention. The other thing, what I said earlier is like, do your teenage children feel like they're being treated differently from each, siblings? Do one get away with another and the other doesn't, or the other one always gets the consequences? So this is something we can always reflect on. And a good way to do it is to speak to your teenagers and be curious about their experience. I think it's really easy. Sometimes the parents do feel quite deflated and attacked and thinking, I've done everything I can, I gave everything I can, and I'm still being criticized that I'm showing favoritism. And I know it's really hard and it's difficult to navigate. However, we can't refute someone's feelings, right? Because feelings are valid. So I think it's really important for us to allow us some time if we hear feedback from our teenagers that we've been, showing favoritism, or we've been like treating one child different from the other. Maybe it's sit back, allow us to digest that, to think about this, and then come back to say to your teenager, and hang on a second, I forgot one step. You want to let your teenagers know that what they say have been heard. And it's a bit difficult to hear, but you're going to spend some time to think about this, and you'll come back to have the conversation with them, which is really powerful. So then you can, once you have think about, process your feeling, come back to speak to your teenager, find out why, what make you think that way, what sort of things I need to do or I can do to make you think about, you know, to change the experience, really is what I'm saying, right? So that is something the parents can think about. The other part is it's not always about, what the parents do or don't do. The other part is there's a bit of a skill we want to teach our teenage children, is how do they navigate the conflicts, right? I remember sometimes my dad and mom just didn't get involved in my arguments with my sister or brother. And sometimes it might be really hard to watch or witness like your two teenage children arguing and fighting. But unless someone is hurting somebody or hitting somebody, it might not be a bad exercise just watch how your teenage children resolve conflicts. How do they communicate? How do they de-escalate? How do they come back down again? And how do they compromise? And if there's something you don't see in your teenager, that is fine too. Once you witness the conflicts, you can always go back to have a discussion with your teenagers. Right, let's look at what happened there. How can we do this? Because at the end of the day, you're siblings, right? And then the bond is there, the love is there, but how do we resolve these things, which is very important skills for teenagers to learn. And they can use these skills elsewhere, with their friends, or when they're working and all these things. So try this out. It's really, really helpful. The other part, I think, what will be really, really helpful and worth trying is foster positive time between your siblings, between your children. They need to experience and know, when I am with my brother or when I'm with my sister, it can be really fun and it can be really, really interesting, and I can feel good about being with them. And sometimes it's hard to do because one teenage children might want to do this and the other one wanted to do another thing, but that's okay. You can always start small. But what I'm saying is that foster that positive time is really important, so your siblings can learn how to be with each other and experience that actually it's really fun to have a sister. We can do makeup together, we can share lipstick together, or it's really fun to have a brother. He can be, we can go out skateboarding, or you take me out with his friends and all these things. It can be really, really fun, and it's about amplifying that, strengthening that, to allow that experience to come forward more than, the conflicts and the challenges. So I hope this has been helpful. And remember, as I always say, there is always the family context to think about, cultural context, your family unique blueprints. And if the things that I share today, that doesn't meet your family circumstances, remember, simply don't use them, but something to think about. And because it's really important to know why your teenagers behave the way they do, or why are they thinking, oh, my sibling are really annoying. And every family is different. So this is when I encourage you to self-assess. Actually, what pages share that meet my family circumstances? Is it because of jealousy? Is it because of attention? Or is it because of X, Y, Z? If it does, then I trust this will be helpful for you. And then definitely try some of the strategies. And if you want to know more, sorry, my voice just cracked. Sorry, if you want to know more about how to parent teenager or understand their behavior or out of character behavior, do go to my website, rainbowparentingpractice.com. There are a few ebooks and resources you can access to. So, and I hope you enjoyed today's episode. I will see you next week. Bye.